Go for it.
Today is September 21st, 2007. This is the Mary L. Cook Public Library, Waynesville, Ohio. Today we are interviewing the spouse of William Donovan, Marjorie Miller Donovan, who served in the U.S. Marine Corps Women's Reserve. Marjorie, if you would like to tell us a little bit about your background before the service and then how you entered the service.
Well, I lived in Cincinnati, grew up there, and went to Miami University, where I met a young man named William. And I taught 1 year of music. My major was music education. I taught in Williamsburg, Ohio, which was a small town with one big building which housed the entire school population from kindergarten through high school, all of which I had to teach music to. All those classes, there were 3 stories in the building, and I had, besides all the classes, I had high school glee clubs and bands supposedly, which could never really meet because the schedule just didn't permit it. Also, I had a study hall, I had a freshman English class, I had a home room, which was on the 3rd floor, and my music room was on the ground floor. And so when school was over, I had to battle the whole high school coming down as I went up so that I could sign out my students at the end of the day, and they were not happy because they were the last ones down. Well, after 1 year, I decided to join the Marines. Also, of course, in wartime, and Bill had been in the service and was shipped overseas by that time, and so I wanted to do my bit.
And what time was this?
This was in August of 43.
And what had gone on, just as a background for our listeners? At what point in the war was the United States? What had happened up to that point?
Well, it was, I can't just exactly remember. I know there was fighting in the Pacific. It was very, it didn't look good, you know, because we were going island to island and all of that. In the Marines, I remember one place was at Cherry Point, where I was on casual duty, and I remember seeing this whole group of men, Marines, at the end of the railroad line, and they were just burdened down with their backpacks and so forth, and they were on their way to the West Coast to Saipan, Taiwan, I can't remember, but and was one of the big battles that happened later, and I just wondered how many of those young men I had seen at Cherry Point getting ready to ship out. But as far as I was concerned, when I applied for the Marine Corps Women's Reserve, I had credentials as a teacher and with the college degree of going to OCS, but there were no openings at the time, so I went in as an enlistee. And went to Camp Lejeune as into boot camp, where we learned close order drill. And the women Marines were noted for their close order drill. They thought we looked better than the men Marines because the women wore skirts and their legs flashed as they did all of the maneuvers. I enjoyed close order drill, but I never did know what it had to do with the war effort. But after boot camp, I was sent to Cherry Point, which was a casual duty.
Where is Cherry Point?
North Carolina. And at boot camp, I had drawn mass duty, and I thought, well, at least that's over with now. And I remember one time we had, I was in the vegetable room getting, where we had to prepare vegetables. And we had to stop and get everything all straightened up and, because we had an inspection coming. And it was Admiral King. And he stuck his head in the door. So that's who I saw at one of, in the one of the notables that I had seen.
Can you explain who Admiral King was?
Well, he was the head of the Navy at the time, as far as I can remember. But at any rate, when I got to Cherry Point, there I had the great good fortune of drawing mass duty again. And this was at Thanksgiving and Christmas, and we had mountains of turkeys to pull pin feathers out. And on Thanksgiving Day, I didn't really get to enjoy my turkey very much because in the morning we had to go to gas mask drill, which put us in what is it? Tear gas chamber. And when I came out of that, I wasn't in much of a mood. I think my gas mask leaked a little bit, and my trench coat reeked of tear gas, and I didn't really enjoy my turkey on Thanksgiving very much. But at any rate, then one of the really good breaks that I got was that I was, from Cherry Point, I was sent to Oxford, Ohio, Miami University, my alma mater, and there was a naval training school for code, Navy code, learning Morse code, and so forth. And when I got there, I was the only one that knew the territory, of course, and so I was put in charge of the platoon, and we marched everywhere in platoon formation. And I had to give all the orders and get us where we were going. We did have one memorable experience there. Besides learning code, which was very nerve-wracking because they gradually increased the speed of the code. Just over 19 weeks, we learned what ordinarily took about 9 months or so to do in ordinary time. But the Navy, well, I directed a Navy and Marine women. There were waves and women Marines there, and we had a glee club, and I directed that. And then the men at the naval base had a men's glee club. And there was a bond rally. They had at different places in the country. It was around close to midnight. I don't know why it was that late, but it was in Cincinnati, and it was broadcast all over the country. And so they wanted the Navy and women's choruses to take part in that. So we went by bus down to Cincinnati, and the director of the Navy men's group didn't want to direct the chorus, so I did. And we sang the Marine hymn and the Navy hymn, of course, and also a very forgettable song about Cincinnati. I grew up there, but I never had heard it before. It went like this. Oh, Queen of the West, in your garment dressed, at your feet mighty waters flow. You are red, white, and blue with a heart that's true. Cincinnati, oh, hi, oh. Which I've never heard since, not surprising. But anyway, we knew at the time when we graduated from the school, the training school, that we would get a strike. So I did get a PFC strike. Then from there, I was sent to a radio repair school in Omaha, Nebraska. They didn't have any more jobs for people who had learned code all that time. I did learn touch typing, which I was happy for. But I went to Omaha, and our platoon lived on the top floor of the Hotel Fontanelle, the best hotel in town. I remember June the 6th, 1944. I was up there. I can just see the sunlight streaming in the windows, and I could hear voices of paper boys down in the street below calling extra D-Day, D-Day, landing in Normandy. And so that I know right where I was at that time. And of course, we knew that was a big turning point. We marched in platoon formation to the laboratory rooms, where we learned how to make super heterodyne radios. I made a beautiful one. I had all my wire work lined up in right angles and everything. And I even got to keep it when we left. We were the last platoon through there. But there again, they knew that there were no jobs along that line after we left, and we didn't get any strikes or anything. But so that was the second place. Then the third place that I was sent back. I had a choice to go to Hawaii or to go back to Camp Lejeune to quartermaster school. But I didn't want to go to Hawaii because Bill was in Europe, and I didn't want to get any farther away than that. So I chose quartermaster school, and back at Camp Lejeune. And so after that, I was sent to the Philadelphia Naval Supply Depot, radio supply. And we worked right alongside civilian girls who had no training of any kind, but we all did the same thing. But there was one young Marine lieutenant there that knew what was going on. It was quite complicated because the Navy and the Army and the Marine Corps all had different names for the same items for repair, the radio parts and so forth. They had different code numbers. And this young man was trying to get them all under the same code number, and he was doing a good job of it. But for some reason or other, he incurred the displeasure of the captain, who we never saw. He just sat in his office with the door closed all the time. But we all knew that we could ask this young lieutenant questions and get the right answer, and things moved along pretty well under him. Well, when he ran afoul of the captain, he was replaced. And so from then on, the office was pretty much of a shambles. But by that time, it was in the spring of 45, and we got word that Germany had surrendered in May, and this was a great thing. So I was there. We had 4 girls that were billeted out in the town in Philadelphia. And we were there until July, and I was mustered out. So when I got back to Cincinnati, I found a job teaching music to Hamilton County schools that were not part of the Cincinnati system. And so as a music teacher, I drove to these different schools and lived at home that year. And Bill got home late December. He had to attend Miami University to finish his degree. And so I spent a good bit of time driving back and forth to Oxford while I was teaching in Hamilton County. And we were married between his summer terms, with a very short honeymoon. And then both got jobs in Oak Hill, Ohio, which is in southeastern Ohio. Very interesting musically because of the Welsh background. And we enjoyed our 2 years there. And then went to New York City for our master's degrees from Columbia University. Dwight Eisenhower was the president of Columbia University while we were there, so we have his signature on our degrees. One of the nice things about Columbia was that we were in the chapel choir there on the campus, which was a wonderful choir. And of course, that's my love is music, and especially choral music. So before we left Columbia, we had a baby on the way who was born in October. After we got back to Ohio, Bill got the job at Miami University, so we moved back to Oxford and lived there 3 years, I guess it was, until 1952 when he got the job as band director at Lebanon, Ohio. And by that time we had another son, and then our daughter Catherine was born later in '55. I stayed at home until she was in first grade. And then it just happened that the elementary music job was open, which I just slid into very smoothly and taught from then till I retired in 1988. I enjoyed teaching elementary music. I love the children. And we also helped to found St. Patrick's Episcopal Church in Lebanon. In 1962, we were founding members, and I founded the boys choir and the adult choir there, both of which I still direct and play the organ, and have my lifetime tenor is Bill, and the choir has been a member all these years, and I'm still at it. It's been a good life. Our children, our son David has become a music. I followed his father's footsteps, and he's director of music. He's the head of the music department at Lebanon High School and founder of the Lebanon Symphony Orchestra and Chorus, which has been doing very well for 16 years now, doing great works, and Bill and I enjoy singing in the chorus. As he said, our worst time of our lives, of course, was when our daughter University on Ohio University campus at the end of her freshman year. I still have a boys choir at St. Patrick's Church, which is, I've cut the time down, but they still love to sing. Every year I get a new crowd to add to the old ones as the older ones move on. And so this year I've been running with a new batch to start the choir for this fall, this Advent season.
What is the age group of your choir?
4th, 5th, and 6th grade boys. And I don't know, when I call back to see if the old boys want to be in it, I don't get, oh, I don't know, maybe. I get, yes, or of course.
Well, that's quite a unique opportunity, I would think, for them.
It is, and it's great for me. It keeps me young, I guess.
Now, I wanted to go back and touch a little bit on the code that you said you did some training for.
Mm-hmm.
Was your purpose to be able to transfer code for the U.S. forces?
Yeah, for the Navy.
Okay.
For the Navy.
So it's not like you were intercepting any code from a
No,
different
not in this. This was just a basic training course.
Okay.
We learned to take code in 5-letter groups. We never knew what it meant.
Mm-hmm.
We knew how to take the heading and the closing, but then it was in 5-letter groups. Every line, you know, and you just have
Just
the
like
earphones.
transcription.
But
It was like transcription.
yeah, you got it over the earphones and then you typed it. You typed it out. We didn't do anything with deciphering, but we had to learn. I can't remember how many. There was words a minute. I mean, and they kept increasing the speed. This was in the reference library, reference room of the Miami University library, and it was just table after table after table, and all these typewriters and all these headphones and
What percent accuracy did they expect?
100%.
That's what I was wondering.
Yes, they did. And we took the what do they call it? NSS, but that was broadcast all over the world. I mean, to naval forces. That was a general broadcast, and we had to take that. I mean, after we got to a certain speed, then we were to listen to that and to type that. So we had to be able to do that before we could graduate.
And then you said in 45 you left the Marines. Was that just your time period was up?
Well, there wasn't any time period. It just was the convenience of the government, I guess.
Okay. So it was just because of the situation with the surrender that they pretty much...
Actually, it wasn't quite at the end of the war, but it was almost.
So it was just like a moving of the amount of services. Okay. And then did you have siblings that were in the service?
No, I had one sister, but she wasn't in the service. However, there was one interesting thing that, I don't know, this is kind of off the subject maybe, but her husband was in the service, and he was a captain in New York City. Well, when Bill learned that he was going overseas, he had been sent to Orangeburg, New York, I guess for the staging area, and he managed to call me by on a long distance on the phone, and he thought he was going to get a leave So he said that we made arrangements so that we would meet in this hotel in New York City. If he, if he got asleep, he thought he did. Well, I'd never ridden a train before at any distance at all. I got on that. It took 17 hours from Cincinnati to New York City, and the trains were all cram-packed that time, and sitting on suitcases part of the time. I got to New York City and went to the hotel, and no sign of him, no message, no nothing. Had never been to the to the big city before, and so I did call my sister, since she and her husband were there, and he in New York, and so he came and we got in touch. We found there was no place to stay at that hotel. It was booked up solid, but they sent me to a very small little hotel on 25th Street. And so he came and found out, or he said he would try to find out where Bill was. So he did. He found out that he was in Orangeburg, New York, which was up the Hudson. And so we went out. He took me. We went across the Weehawken Ferry and up the train. Took us up to Orangeburg. Got off the train. The camp was on one side of the railroad tracks. No one was allowed in there. And civilian land was on the other side. And the camp personnel were allowed across the tracks. So he went in and he managed to find him and brought him out. And so we stood in the middle of the railroad tracks for 20 minutes, and that had to last us for 3 years, till the end of the war.
And did he have any repercussions from that, from his military supervisors?
I don't think so. I don't think so. But that was it. At least I had some closure. I just didn't have to wonder where and what. So I did stay a couple of extra days, since I'd never been to New York City before. And it seems to me I saw Oklahoma, which was just new at that time. And went back in the train. Oh my, that was an old train. It was hot as anything. This was June. And so they opened the windows, and it was coal-fired, and the smoke came in the windows, and we all were totally black when we got home. So that was before I had decided to apply to join the Marines, but that was after that. That's when I.
Were there a lot of troops on your trains?
Oh yes, and and now when I came home, I came back through to the Oakley station. My parents met me there, but then I had several times that I rode on trains during my service time, and Union Station in Cincinnati was just absolutely packed. Coming and going, troops, people, everything. It was just. It was really exciting in a way, because there was so much bustle and all, but it's a beautiful station. And
for people who are not familiar with it, it is a very large station.
It is.
Beautifully, architecturally.
It is. Now, of course, over the years, the trains have lost a lot of traffic, and so it's not even used as a train station anymore. It's a museum now. But they do have the murals in the rotunda is still there, and these beautiful murals that were down the concourse were transferred to the airport, and Cincinnati Airport in
was your communication? How often did you receive letters from Bill, or did you have times when it would go a long time and you didn't receive anything?
Oh, it wasn't too long. It was mostly email, not email, email. Email.
And can you describe that for us?
Yes, we communicated pretty well because, of course, as he has said, he wasn't on the front lines or anything of that kind. So we were able to communicate pretty well. He couldn't tell me much about where he was or what he was doing, but at least I was in communication.
And for younger people who might be listening to this, did you have areas of your letters that were blacked out or anything like that? Not especially.
I don't remember. I think we pretty much didn't have any sensitive information to black out. I don't remember any blacking out.
Okay. And so, how was the atmosphere at home during World War II? Just with the general public?
Oh, everybody was trying to help. At Williamsburg, we organized a big scrap drive. In fact, I kind of headed it up. I really pushed for it, and people were trying to help. The whole country was unified.
And can you talk a little bit about rationing?
Oh, yes. Well, when we were stationed in Philadelphia, this group of 4 girls that worked at the Naval Depot, and we lived in the hotel that had kitchen facilities. So we did our own cooking for evening meal and breakfast. We had our lunch down at the depot. And so I had to do one other girl and I took over the cooking chores, and the other 2 girls did the washing up and the cleaning the room. And the one girl, we tried with me doing breakfast or doing whole days at a time, you know. Well, that didn't work because I was a little bit on the late side and everybody got late for breakfast. So the other girl did breakfast much more promptly, and then I did all the evening meals. And I did most of the shopping. And we all had ration books, and I had to use those for rationing. Of course, we didn't have to worry about shoes because those were issued. But I can just remember, coffee and the different things. But I had 4 books so that I never went short. Always had enough.
And aside from coffee, what were some of the things that were rationed?
Oh, I can't remember now. Sugar, I think. I can't remember. Some meat
supplies.
We didn't use too much. I didn't do too much baking.
Did you get around mostly by
Streetcars.
streetcars?
Oh, and that was a very severe winter in January '45. I can just remember, and the streets were not cleared because the manpower was very short. I can remember that going across the street, and the car tracks were just deep grooves through about that much ice. It was very dangerous getting around. But that's the way we go. We went by streetcar to get to work.
And then you discussed a little bit about the shortage of manpower. Was just the average community, mostly female, anywhere across the country at that time period? Since
I think
most
so.
of the people were
I think so.
in the services.
course, there were a good many women in the service, but not as big a proportion, not like it is today.
Well, can you talk a little bit, because you said you were in the Marine Corps Women's Reserve. When had that been going for a while? Was that a new division in the services?
It was fairly new at that time.
And what was their main function?
It was supposed to be a Marine free and Marine to fight.
Okay.
I don't think the men liked that idea too much. In fact, I remember hauling this sea bag through the camp on, I don't know, it was Lejeune or something, walking along the sidewalk and lugging this heavy sea bag, and a group of 3 Marine men came along, and they didn't budge a bit. I had to get off the sidewalk with my big sea bag, so chivalry didn't have a whole lot to do with it at that point.
Now, how was your group different from the other women's forces as far as the distinctions made between them? Was it just that you were just solely a Marine division, and therefore your focus was directed in that way? Or how, I guess my question is, how did you differentiate as a civilian between like the WASP and the Army Corps? And
well, I can't say much for the others, but I think one of the main reasons that they joined the Marines was the hats. They were designed by Schiaparelli, and they were sharp. And when you were thinking about the services and you looked at the different, if you didn't know which was which, why?
nobody has. And then did one of the services focus more overseas, or would?
The Marines were not overseas, the Marine women, except for Hawaii. Now, I think the blacks probably were. We didn't know too much about the other services. We were proud to be Marines.
Mm-hmm.
They certainly did give us the esprit de corps, and we always felt that the Marines were better than anybody.
How about your physical training? Was it rigorous? Or during your
I don't
basic?
remember too much, except, well, we did have some, I guess. But close order drill was one of the main things. And as I said, I enjoyed it because it was rhythmic. It was we were good.
Were you in parades, local parades and things like that?
At Miami we were, or when we were in Oxford, we were in parades, and they had reviews on Cook Field. One thing I remember about the Navy of Miami, they came in on June 1st, 1942, which was the day I graduated, and it was a hot day. But they had the Navy had arrived, and of course this was before I had any idea of being part of that. And they were stationed along the route where all our caps and gowns were marching into the literal court there for the graduation ceremonies. And I remember feeling sorry for them because they were in their winter wools and standing at attention, and it was a long line. And so I know exactly when they arrived at the school, and it was it was mostly men were stationed at Fisher Hall, but we had one platoon of women Marines and 3 platoons of waves, the women that were training at that time. And that was, of course, I didn't get there until, well, January, I guess, 44.
Were they often located by college campuses because of the fields and so forth, or?
I don't really know. I don't know why it was, why they chose Miami University, but they had the big field, of course, but the college professors, some of them were the instructors. I didn't know too much about the setup. We just went in and did what we were told.
How about you? Did you have friends that you kept in contact with afterwards?
Not a one, not a one.
Okay.
I think about them sometimes, and some of the girls, we had some fun times, but then we were changed around a good bit. I mean, every time I moved, there were different, it was a different group. It wasn't with a special group that stayed together.
Is there anything that we haven't touched on that you would like to add to the interview?
No, I didn't feel that I added anything to the war effort, but I tried. But everyone was trying in those days, trying to do whatever they could. And I've had some of the valuable things that I learned that I've carried into my life were touch typing and the GI Bill, which was a warning.
And that also allowed you to get your master's.
That allowed us to get our master's, and Bill and I both. And so we were always at the top of the pay scale and wherever we taught. And didn't have to take any more extra courses. So that was a good thing from that standpoint.
Excellent. Well, if you have no further comments, then I think we'll conclude our interview.
Thanks.
This is Kathy Colvin, interviewer at the Mary L. Cook Public Library, Waynesville, Ohio. Thank you, Marjorie.
Okay. Well.
All right.